Welcome to Echoes of My Imagination. My name is Tracy Lee. Sit back, relax. Let me tell you a story. Today's story is the continuation of how the world works. Let's get into it. Life. I am organized matter. Unlike stone, water, or air, I maintain structure by constantly exchanging energy and materials with the world around me. I build order locally, while the universe as a whole moves towards disorder. My beginnings were small. On the early Earth, oceans covered large portions of the surface. Within those waters, countless chemical reactions occurred as molecules collided, separated, and recombined. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur interacted in many possible arrangements. Energy from sunlight, lightning, and geothermal heat drove those reactions. Most combinations were temporary. Molecules formed and then broke apart again as conditions changed. Yet some structures proved more stable than others. Carbon played an important role. Each carbon atom can form 4 strong bonds with neighboring atoms. That ability allows carbon to build complex frameworks capable of folding into stable shapes. Chains, rings, and branching structures formed in the ancient oceans. Amongst those structures were molecules capable of storing information. Certain long chains of nucleotides could arrange themselves in sequences that carried instructions for building other molecules. These chains could also act as templates, guiding the formation of copies when the right components were nearby. Replication began in simple form. When molecules copy themselves with slight variations, natural selection becomes possible. Structures that persist longer or reproduce more efficiently gradually become more common. Over long periods, molecular systems grew more complex. Lipids, molecules with water attracting and water repelling regions, naturally assemble into thin membranes when placed in water. These membranes form enclosed spheres that separate an internal environment from the surrounding ocean. Within such compartments, chemical reactions could occur in a more controlled way. Molecules capable of replication and metabolism gathered inside these boundaries. The earliest cells emerged from this combination of containment, information storage, and chemical activity. A living cell is a highly organized system. The membrane surrounding it regulates which substances enter or leave. Inside the cell, thousands of molecular machines operate simultaneously. Proteins fold into precise shapes that allow them to catalyze specific chemical reactions. Enzymes accelerate reactions that would otherwise occur far too slowly. Within the cell's interior, energy is transferred through controlled movements of electrons between molecules. These transfers rely on the quantum behavior of electrons, occupying discrete energy levels within atoms and chemical bonds. When an electron shifts from a higher energy state to a lower one, energy becomes available to drive useful work. Cells capture and manage these energy transfers carefully. One of the most widespread biological energy systems involves a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. The chemical bonds within ATP store energy that can be released when the molecule breaks apart into smaller components. Cells continually produce and consume ATP to power their internal processes. Many of these processes begin with sunlight. In photosynthetic organisms, specialized pigments absorb photons of light. When a photon strikes one of these molecules, it excites an electron to a higher energy level. That excited electron begins a sequence of transfers between molecules embedded in a cellular membrane. Each transfer releases a small amount of energy that cells capture to build ATP and other energy-rich compounds. Water molecules are split during this process, releasing oxygen into the surrounding environment. The captured energy is then used to convert carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into sugars. Those sugars store chemical energy within their carbon bonds. Plants use them to build tissues such as leaves, stems, and roots. Animals obtain the storage energy by consuming plants or other animals. Inside animal cells, complex metabolic pathways break sugars apart in carefully controlled steps. Electrons move through additional chains of molecules, releasing energy gradually and storing it again as ATP. Oxygen plays a key role in these reactions. At the end of the electron transport chain, oxygen accepts electrons and combines with hydrogen to form water. This final step allows the entire process to continue efficiently. The result is a steady flow of usable energy within living cells. That energy allows cells to maintain their structure, repair damage, and reproduce. DNA carries the instructions that guide these processes. Within the double helix of DNA, sequences of 4 chemical bases encode information used to build proteins. During reproduction, cells copy this information with remarkable accuracy. Occasionally, small changes occur in those sequences. These mutations introduce variation to populations of organisms. Some changes have little effect. Others alter physical traits or biochemical processes. Natural selection acts on those differences. Organisms better suited to their environments tend to survive and reproduce more successfully. Over many generations, the accumulated changes shaped the evolution of the species. Through this process, life diversified across the planet. Single cells developed into multicellular organisms with specialized tissues. Plants spread across land and transformed the atmosphere by releasing oxygen through photosynthesis. Animals evolved structures for movement, sensing, and complex behavior. Forests formed. Coral reefs grew in shallow seas. Grasslands spread across continents where climate favored their expansion. Every ecosystem operates through the exchange of energy and materials. Sunlight powers the growth of plants. Herbivores consume those plants. Predators feed on herbivores. Decomposers break down dead organisms and return nutrients to soil and water. The atoms involved in life rarely remain in one organism for long. Carbon from the air becomes part of a leaf. That carbon may pass into an animal, then into soil, and eventually return to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Nitrogen cycles between air, soil, and living tissue through the work of specialized microorganisms. Water moves continuously through plants, animals, clouds, and rivers. Life exists within these cycles rather than separate from them. Every living system depends on gravity holding the atmosphere in place, sunlight providing energy, and time allowing evolution to unfold. Without those conditions, the delicate organization required for life could not persist. Yet, given the right conditions, matter can arrange itself into systems capable of growth, reproduction, and adaptation. I am life. Matter organized into self-sustaining systems, powered by energy, shaped by natural selection, and connected to every cycle operating across the surface of the earth. Blood. I move through every part of the body. From the smallest capillaries to the largest arteries, I travel continuously, carrying oxygen, nutrients, signals, and cells that protect the body from harm. My motion never stops for long. When it does, life quickly fades. My journey begins deep inside bone. Within the soft tissue of bone marrow, new blood cells form every day. Stem cells divide and specialize, becoming red blood cells, white blood cells, or platelets. Each type serves a different purpose once it enters the circulation. When they are ready, these cells pass through thin walls of blood vessels and join the flowing stream. I am more than cells alone. Most of my volume is a pale fluid called plasma. This liquid is mostly water, but it carries dissolved protein, sugars, salts, hormones, and waste products moving through the body. Suspended within its fluid are cells that give blood its color and its work. Red blood cells are the most numerous. Each one contains a protein called hemoglobin. At the center of hemoglobin lies an iron atom capable of binding oxygen molecules. When blood passes through the lungs, oxygen diffuses into these cells and attaches to the iron within the hemoglobin. The cells then carry that oxygen through arteries and smaller vessels to tissues throughout the body. When they reach cells that need energy, the oxygen is released. Inside those cells, oxygen allows chemical reactions that extract energy from nutrients. Carbon dioxide forms as a waste product and enters the blood in return. The circulation carries it back to the lungs, where it leaves the body during exhalation. Through this exchange, I connect breathing with every cell that requires energy. White blood cells serve another role. They travel through the bloodstream searching for signs of infection or injury. Some recognize foreign organisms such as bacteria or viruses. Others produce molecules that coordinate the immune response. When a threat appears, white blood cells leave the bloodstream and enter the surrounding tissues, gathering where they are needed. Platelets perform yet another task. When a blood vessel is damaged, platelets collect at the site of the injury and begin forming a clot. They release signals that attract more platelets and activate proteins dissolved in the plasma. Threads of a protein called fibrin form a net across the break in the vessel wall. Blood cells become trapped within this network, sealing the wound and slowing further loss of blood. This process allows injuries to heal. The movement of blood depends on a steady rhythm. At the center of the circulatory system is the heart, a muscular organ that contracts again and again throughout life. With each beat, chambers inside the heart squeeze blood forward into arteries. Elastic vessel walls stretch slightly under pressure and then recoil, helping push the flow onward. Arteries divide into smaller branches called arterioles, which lead to networks of microscopic capillaries. Here, the vessel walls are thin enough for oxygen, nutrients, and waste products to move between blood and surrounding tissues. After passing through the capillaries, the blood collects again in veins and returns to the heart. This cycle repeats continuously. Even while you rest, billions of cells depend on steady delivery of oxygen and nutrients that travel within this moving fluid. Muscles rely on it for energy. The brain depends on a constant supply of oxygen carried through its dense network of vessels. Without that flow, cells cannot continue their work. The color you see when blood is exposed to air comes from hemoglobin, carrying oxygen. Oxygen-rich blood appears bright red. When the oxygen has been delivered to the tissues, the color becomes darker. The iron within hemoglobin plays a crucial role in this process. It binds oxygen molecules temporarily and releases them again when they are needed. That iron once formed in ancient stars long before the Earth existed. Now it moves continuously through the body, carried within millions of circulating cells. I am the river that connects every organ and tissue. I carry breath to cells, remove their waste, deliver signals, and defend against threats. I move without pause through the vessels of living bodies. I am blood. Bone. I am the framework that allows bodies to stand. Without me, muscles would have nothing to pull against. Limbs would collapse under their own weight. Movement would become impossible. Inside animals like you, I form the rigid structure that supports every motion you make. But I was not always part of living bodies. The atoms that build me were formed long before life appeared on Earth. Calcium, phosphorus, oxygen, and carbon were scattered through ancient seas and rocks. Over time, living organisms learned to gather these elements and arrange them into stronger forms. Early creatures in the oceans began forming hard structures for protection and support. Some produced shells, others built internal frameworks that allowed them to grow larger and move more efficiently. From these early structures, I emerged. At first, I exist as living tissue. During development, specialized cells create flexible frameworks made mostly of collagen, a strong protein that forms long fibers. This organic scaffold provides a structure where minerals can accumulate. Then calcium and phosphate ions begin to gather within the matrix. These ions combine to form tiny crystals of a mineral called hydroxyapatite. The crystals settle between the collagen fibers, slowly hardening the structure. Layer by layer, the tissue becomes rigid while still retaining a small amount of flexibility. This combination gives bone its strength. The mineral crystals resist compression. The collagen fibers prevent the structure from becoming brittle. Together, they form a material strong enough to support large bodies while remaining light enough for movement. Inside me runs a network of living cells. Blood vessels travel through narrow channels carrying oxygen and nutrients. Cells called osteoblasts build new bone tissue. Other cells called osteoclasts dissolve old or damaged areas. Because of this constant activity, bone is never truly finished. Throughout life, I change. When muscles pull repeatedly on a section of bone, the structure strengthens in response. Additional mineral is deposited where stress is greatest. If a bone breaks, specialized cells rebuild the damaged region, restoring its strength over time. This ability to grow and repair allows skeletons to adapt to the demands placed upon them. Inside larger bones lie another important structure. The hollow spaces within certain bones contain marrow, a soft tissue where blood cells are produced. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets all begin their development within this protected environment. From here, they enter the bloodstream and travel throughout the body. In this way, bone supports not only movement, but life itself. Different animals shape me in different ways. The long bones of running animals allow powerful strides across open land. The hollow bones of birds reduce weight while maintaining strength for flight. Thick skeletal plates protect the vital organs of turtles and armadillos. Yet in every case, the same principles remain. Mineral crystal provides strength. Collagen fibers provide flexibility. Living cells maintain the structure. Even after life ends, bone can endure. Unlike soft tissues that decay quickly, my mineral structure resists breakdown. Long after muscles and skin disappear, bones may remain buried in soil or stone. Over thousands or millions of years, they can fossilize, preserving the shapes of creatures that once moved across ancient landscapes. Through these remains, the history of life can be read. The atoms that compose me once drifted through oceans and rocks. Living cells gathered them together and arranged them into a structure capable of supporting motion, protecting organs, and producing blood. I am the living framework inside animals. I am bone. Bioluminescence. I make light in the dark. No fire burns where I appear. No filament glows with heat. My light forms through chemistry inside living cells. Across oceans, forests, and quiet fields, certain organisms produce light by releasing energy from controlled chemical reactions. The glow can be faint or sudden, steady or pulsing, but it always begins the same way. Inside specialized cells are molecules designed to store energy. These molecules are called luciferins. When they react with oxygen, energy is released. An enzyme called luciferase controls the reaction, guiding it so the energy escapes as visible light rather than heat. Electrons inside the molecules shift to higher energy states during the reaction. When they fall back again, the excess energy leaves as a photon. The result is light that is cool to the touch. In the deep ocean, this light is common. Sunlight cannot reach the depths where pressure is immense and water stretches endlessly in every direction. Yet many of the creatures living there glow. Small fish carry organs filled with luminous bacteria. Jellyfish pulse with faint blue light as they drift through cold water. Tiny plankton flash when disturbed, turning the motion of waves into bursts of blue sparks. Each flash begins inside a living cell. When the reaction starts, photons spread outward through the surrounding water until they are absorbed by another surface or enter the eye of a nearby creature. In this way, living organisms become sources of light. Some species use this glow to hunt. In the darkness of deep water, a small, shining lure can attract curious prey. Certain fish extend a glowing organ in front of their mouths. Smaller animals drawn toward the light move closer without recognizing the danger. When they approach, the hunter strikes. Others use light to hide. Some squid produce a faint glow along their undersides that matches the dim light filtering down from the distant surface. Predators looking upward see only brightness that blends with the water above. The animal's shadow disappears. Communication also travels through these signals. Flashes of light move through the darkness carrying information. Patterns of pulses allow individuals to recognize one another or coordinate behavior. On land, this same chemistry appears in quieter places. On warm summer nights, fireflies rise slowly from grasses and forest edges. Inside their bodies, controlled bursts of chemical reactions produce pulses of yellow-green light. Each species flashes in a specific rhythm. Males drift through the air while signaling. Females resting on plants respond with precise flashes of their own. Across the landscape, small points of living light answer one another in silence. In some forests, the glow comes from an unexpected source. Fungi, growing inside rotting wood, can produce a steady green light known as foxfire. Deep in damp forests, fallen logs sometimes shine faintly in complete darkness. The glow is soft and continuous, spreading along the threads of fungal cells that digest the wood. Within these cells, the same chemistry unfolds. Luciferin reacts with oxygen, releasing energy that leaves the organism as green light. The glow is weak, but in the stillness of night, it can be seen clearly by eyes that have adjusted to the dark. Travelers moving through dense forests long ago sometimes noticed these glowing logs scattered along the ground. In total darkness, they appeared as dim green patches amongst the leaves, marking the slow work of decay and renewal. Even microorganisms produce these lights. Certain plankton in coastal waters emit sudden flashes of blue when disturbed by movement. A breaking wave or the passing of a swimming fish can trigger thousands of microscopic bursts at once. For a moment, the surface of the ocean sparkles with living light. This phenomenon is remarkably efficient. Nearly all the energy released in the reaction becomes light rather than heat. Very little is wasted. The glow is cool enough that the surrounding tissues remain unharmed. Bioluminescence shows that light does not belong only to the stars, fire, or electricity. Life itself can produce it. In dark oceans, in quiet forests, and along the shifting edges of the sea, living cells transform chemical energy into photons that travel outward through the night. Small signals of light appear where no sunlight reaches. They drift, pulse, and fade again into darkness. I am the glow created by living chemistry. I am bioluminescence. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for Echoes of My Imagination. Don't forget to subscribe, share, follow, and like, and I'll catch you next time.